Today's Chabura, today's learning is going to be in the merit of one of our members over here that comes on a daily basis, Reb Shmuel ben
Shmuel Moshe ben Hillel Naphtali.
Shmuel Moshe ben
Hillel Naphtali.
Hillel Naphtali. And the reason is because yesterday we had a question. We were unsure about the question. We said we're going to go into the question more, and therefore that's what we're going to do today. What's the question? The age-old, irrelevant question, which actually applies to this week that we're going to be heading to Lakewood for my brother-in-law, Shalom Zachar. We're going to be sleeping in one place and eating in another place.
You ain't making it back in time.
And where do we light and why? That is the question that we're going to be dealing with today. Good morning, David. So if you're joining today for the first time, and you have no clue what we've been learning about over the last few weeks, today is the time to join because we're going to be doing a deep dive on this. We're going to be covering all angles.
Good timing.
The expression goes, I stand corrected. I'm going to sit corrected on one nuance, and we're going to go through this from beginning until end. Without further ado, let's begin. So I started looking around to see who really talks about this. And I really couldn't find a tremendous amount, but I did find a beautiful tshuva. Rav Harvanis talks about this tshuva. He has around 100 pages or so just on this simon that we're learning on the halachas of lighting candles on Shabbos. And over here, he's basically talking about in Siman Shin Sad Yehei in the Chelik Beis of the Shilos and Shuvas Nishma Shabbos. If you have a young couple, they're going to eat by their parents. On Shabbos night, Friday night, they're going to eat there. And then they're going to return back to their dira, their apartment. Maybe they have a house. They're going to go back to their house at a later time at night. Where do they light? Exactly the question that we're dealing with over here. Correct? Good. So he starts off by saying they should light in their house. Now don't leave because we're going to see all of the nuances of this halacha. They should light in their house in a way that they're going to get pleasure on Shabbos from the actual Shabbos lights without the electricity. They got to get pleasure from the actual candles. We're going to have a whole session. We're going to be learning about this. Why do we light nowadays if we have electricity? We're going to discuss it. Therefore, they should light candles or put enough oil in there so that it will last until they return home, or minimally make sure that there is one candle that will last when they get home, or one that has extra oil that will last for when they get home. But do not light in the place where you're eating. Do not light by your parents. Why? Here's why I love these tshuvas. It's not just a halacha. It's a reasoning so that you understand it better. When you understand it, you remember it better. By the way, the stuff that we're learning, share with anyone that you know. Share with your wives. Don't be afraid of your wives just because they light. They've got to know this also. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Even if they do, they don't know all the reasons that we're covering. This is deep dive, fellas. This is halacha l'maisa. Number one. That's your house. Your house, as we're going to be learning about either today or in tomorrow's session, there's something called the choivos habayis. We're going to see what is the geder, what is the status of lighting candles on Shabbos. Is that an obligation on the guf? Is it a choivos haguf? Is it on the mensch? Is it on the person himself? Or is it it's a choivos habayis on the house itself? We're going to discuss that more. Number one, there's an obligation on the actual house. It has to be lit in the house itself. Number two, when you're eating by your parents, you are halachically considered and you're in the category of soimeich al shulchan aviv, which means that you were relying on the table of your father. You're relying on the table of your mother, of your parents, which means, are you going to pay for that meal when you go to your parents? No, they're covering it. And therefore, if it's considered that you're under their umbrella, so to say, right? Today's a rainy day. We're getting the effects of hurricane. What do they call it? Melissa, this one? Yeah, who comes up with these names? I don't know. I want to call it Hurricane Sarah. Why do they have English names?
At the alphabetical
All
order.
right, alphabetical. Let's go to the Aleph base. Let's go. Hurricane David. Hurricane Shaya. Let's go. You got to come in like a hurricane when you learn Torah. You got to come in like thunder and lightning when you learn. So therefore, it's considered as if they're relying on the table of their parents, and therefore they're batil, so to say. They are considered to be under the umbrella on this rainy day. They're covered by their parents. And therefore, since they're covered by their parents, they might not even halachically need to like. You see from here something very insightful. This is specifically if you're going out by your parents, the second reason would apply. However, this reason would not apply if you're going somewhere else.
Your friends.
Yeah, to friends, something like that, somewhere. Or this Shabbos, we're going to be going to my wife's brother, right? That would already be a different story over there. But the first reason would still apply. There's a choivos habayis. It's an obligation on the house. Therefore, you have to make sure that at least one candle will remain aflame until the time when you return to your house after you finish the Suda on Shabbos, until you finish the meal. The shaila is, let's say you prepared lamashal. Let's say this week, for example, Shabbos starts what time? 5:30? 5:30, not 6:30, right?
Yeah, 5:30.
Yeah, 5:30. Next week,
week,
4:30-ish.
Yeah.
Those are, then it gets the earliest. 5:30, let's say it starts. All right. You put enough oil in at least one of the receptacles. What do you call those things that hold oil? Oil holder. You put enough oil inside that it will last until 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. You figure it starts 5:30. By the time we start eating, it will be 6:30. For sure, we'll be home by 9. Lo and behold, there was so much for you to share about all of the learning that you did during the week over here in the morning. And before you know it, you went from one conversation about lighting Shabbos candles to another. And you said, wow, that's interesting. I never knew about that. Of course, you didn't spend hours learning the topic. And before you know it, you're there and you're talking Torah the whole time. You get home, it's 9:45.
Candles out.
They're not lit anymore. Is that going to be halachically an issue or not? Case 2. You were over there and you were spending time, and then one of your close friends came to the place where you were at, and you ended up spending more time there, and you came home late. Should you now say, oh, sorry, I gotta get home so I could see my mare lit? Oh no, you could stay there. Good question. Comes Rav Harfinis and says, if you prepared candles, that it was supposed to remain aflame, the amount of time that you maturely and properly estimated that you would be home in time for, then you are covered. If something occurred afterwards that caused you to stay there longer, and in the meantime the candles extinguish, it's not considered a bracha levatala, bracha in vain. Because at the time when you lit the candles, you fulfilled the commandment of the rabbis. Light in a place, but you're going to benefit from them, and in a way that it will stay lit the proper amount of time. And that's exactly what happened. He says an interesting case of a meiri. I want to tweak this a little bit. Let's say a person washed his hands. He's so hungry and he's ready for a great breakfast. He's going to be having toast, eggs and cheese, hash browns, and he's going to be washing pancakes. He's going to be having the whole 10 yards over here. So he washes with all the heilige kavanas, and he's so excited. He's going to eat, and he's going to do it. He's going to eat because he'll have energy so he could learn more Torah, HaKadosh, and do more mitzvahs. He's eating lishma, not just to be mamale his taivos, to fulfill his desires, and taivos achila, to eat more. He's doing it so that he could serve Hashem better. He washes and he's so happy and he picks up the bread and he's about to say hamotzi and then he hears on his walkie-talkie, dead for over an hour, we have an Hatzalah call. Happens to be that the Hatzalah call is a half a block away from him. He gets up to run there. And he's involved with that Hatzalah call for the next few hours. Is the bracha of Al Natilas Yadayim that he made in vain? Is that a bracha of Atala? Comes along the Meiri and says, certainly not. Because when he washed his hands, he did according to halacha. He thought he was going to have that lavish meal. Now he had an extenuating circumstance in which prevented him from eating. So now it's still not in vain. The same applies over here if he's in his parents' house. The meal went longer than expected, that Suda. Guests came afterwards. Lechatchila, he could stay there 100% halachically, it's permissible. Even though through that he's not going to be able to see the candles. And he's not obligated to come back to return to his house. Typo, it says kedach, it should say kidei. He's not obligated to go back quickly to his house so that he'll get pleasure from the candles. You see the typo? There in the obvious. The point of the matter is there's something called the insurance business. Nowadays, it's a popular thing. They rip you off. They make tons of money. All sorts of insurance that you have to pay whether you like it or not. House insurance, car insurance, medical insurance. A lot of employees get covered for the job for that. Some people who don't have jobs, they go the Medicaid route. Insurance. For insurance purposes, make sure that at least one candle has enough oil in there to last for 6-7 hours. You have nothing to lose. That's all. You get out of it. Especially nowadays. What's the cost? How much will it cost to have oil in a candle that will last for an extra 2-3 hours or last 6 hours total? $1. You can't afford it. You call me up. I got you covered right here. I got you covered if you can't afford it. $1. That's what it costs. $1 for a mitzvah? Come on. Vilna Gaon was crying, holding sits before he passed. Here I could buy it for so cheap and get a mitzvah every single second. In the next world, you can spend trillions. You can't get a mitzvah. Another tactic is you could eat a little bit in the house at night when you return. Which means where there's Jews, there's food. After you come home, of course, you might have had a lavish Suda, but that walk, it built up a slight appetite. So now what you should do is you should eat a little bit in front of the candles, and then it's considered as if you also ate in the place of the candles. What a great idea. I was actually thinking about this in the back of my head. He doesn't go into what do you need to eat. Will it help if you have a slice of an apple?
With our electricity, how much hana are you actually getting?
Oh, so that's going to be another session. As you could tell, there's a lot to cover on these topics. So we're going to get to that. Why do we light nowadays if we have good old-fashioned electricity? Or I should say good new-fashioned, right?
Still what you like, but still.
What are you lighting for? We're going to cover that. We're going to cover that. Saying right now, we're going to cover that in depth. See multiple explanations over there. But the point of the matter is, eat and you get pleasure in front of the actual nair. Now, when you eat, question is, do you need to eat like cake, cookies, something that's mezoinus that could be considered being kaiveya makom sud? Yeah, okay, maybe nice idea to have mezoinus and you could establish a place of your meal more and you have cookies or the cake. Anyways, no. You know. If you thought that we were done with this, you weren't. That's why we had to dedicate today's session. Okay? We only dedicate for members or people who pay the big bucks. 9 digits. 9 digits only we accept. Anything less than 9 digits we're not interested in over here. Let's say part 2, and it's talking about that you eat on Shabbos by your parents. Same case. You're sleeping in your house. Well, what happens is you're going to get back very late. You're gonna get back at 3 o'clock in the morning for some reason because you're talking so much Torah Hakadoisha. From all the Torah that we learn, you have to catch your parents up, and they're so interested that before you know it, you're at your parents till 3 o'clock in the morning talking about all the interesting Torahs that we're learning over here in the morning. So much to talk about, so much to learn, so much to share. So the question is, when you come back, there ain't gonna be no candles that are gonna be lit. It's not, the oil's not gonna last that long. The question is, could the wife quickly get some pleasure from the candles before she goes out, before she leaves? That was the question that we asked yesterday. I said probably not. I stand corrected, or in this case, I sit corrected. Because it could very well be that it would be okay. You have to calculate when you're getting the pleasure also. According to Rav Harfinus, that would be okay. As long as there's no electricity also over there. So it's like just the candles, you're getting real pleasure from it. Now she has to stay there when it's still dark. You can't get pleasure with it before. That wouldn't necessarily help.
Say how long?
Dark.
Wait, say
Choshek sas.
How
Little
long
dark.
should you stay by the candles to
But
get
in
how
a couple
long?
of minutes, you get some real pleasure from it. Not harama.
And they
You're not playing tricks over here.
And if the
You're playing jokes.
electricity's on, then there's no chance, even if you move up right up to the light.
Yeah, he doesn't like it with the electricity on because the electricity is gonna overpower the lights. It's gonna be in the gedder shagar biti haramaya, honey. It's like you turn on a flashlight, you turn on the lights on a sunny day when the sun's coming in the room. How much are the lights gonna do?
So you gotta go to a dark place then. Or
So look, that's what he says over there with the whole dark tactic. I think, does he put it in this spot or is this in the next spot? Yeah, that's what he says, and therefore. Once it starts getting dark outside a little bit, that's fine. She should, say some Tehillim over there, learn something over there in a way that she gets pleasure from it. The husband can't do that because he didn't have him in yet. He didn't accept Shabbos upon himself when he lit. So therefore he can't get pleasure from it. He has to pick her up after shul and then get pleasure for a couple of minutes and then go. Have to do that, which it could very well be out of his way walking back home. So, that's why the best is to make sure that there's enough when you get home. Now, another tactic is discussed in the Shiles and Chuvas Maharil, Achadashot and Siman Mem Hey. He says that it's implied that if you light your candles in a place where there's no room, right? Or even in a place, in a place where there's no windows, or even if you light them in a place where there's windows, you could darken the situation till you get pleasure from it. So basically, what that means practically nowadays, this means nowadays if you have window shades, he calls it window shades, yeah, which darkens the room. So now what could you do? So now you could light, and it will get dark earlier, so to say, through the shades, even if it's not dark in the rest of the house, and therefore you could be good over there. This is a good idea. After the husband comes back from shul, he should look in a sefer in front of the candles as something learned for 2 minutes. And, especially if he has someone reminding him not to tilt the candle to either help the flame or because that could cause a havara, burning or extinguishing. So you have to be careful with that one. This question if that applies nowadays he's talking about. We'll have to learn about that another time. Depends what it's made out of. Maybe so anyways, so that's what he says over there. I thought so that was basically he's lenient. Yesterday I was a little stringent on this, but he's lenient. This is certainly what to rely on if you need to do it. You get pleasure from it any way you could, okay? If you want to know what he's saying over here is you could change from your bekasha to your tish bekasha in front of the candles. That's what he's saying over there. Anyways, if you don't have a bekasha, then obviously, what are you waiting for? Okay, anyways, no, just kidding. I don't have one. Anyways, this is what he talks about over here, so he's a little lenient on that one. Now,
Like you do something like putting your tie or something that count? It's
yeah,
not, like,
put on your
intense enough?
tie. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But why wasn't your tie on when you went to shul?
I don't know. You forgot. That's a good question. It should be on already, but yeah.
Did you forget to bring your shoe?
Yeah, here.
I hear. Yeah. Okay. Nope. The next part of this says like this. You have kids. You don't want to walk your kids in two directions that are a mile on Shabbos. So what you want to do now is you're gonna visit your family Shabbos night to eat there. You're gonna visit your friends. Could you drive there before Shabbos and then light the candles over there where you're gonna eat? And afterwards, you return to your house to sleep, of course. Same case, but you want to drive there.
It could be, you're lighting, where are you lighting?
Where you lighting? Same case. Where you lighting? Could you light then where you're going to eat, even though you're not going to sleep there because you want to drive there? He says, look in the previous seminar, we already discussed the preferable way, aka you light it at home where you're going to sleep. Then he says, look, let's talk kids. We all got them. And sometimes they're not so easy to shuffle around at large distances. If it's difficult for you to go to your parents' house or friend on Shabbos night, especially if you're in a city where there's no Eruv, Brooklyn, no one really holds a Eruv there. So they want to travel to the parents' house when it's still day, early, before Plaga Mincha. So you can't even light at home, because before Plaga Mincha. B'di'evid. It's not preferable, but you could light in a non-halachically preferable manner. Not halachically preferable. You could light at your parents' house in the kitchen or something, which is a place where you're gonna be eating. Dining room, we would call this. It's not preferable. So it could very well be, and we're gonna have to learn about this more when we get to Sif Yud. But it could very well be that it will be better to wait until after Plaga Mincha. She should light early. Make a condition that she's not going to accept Shabbos upon herself. And then she should drive there and accept Shabbos when she arrives at the destination of her parents. Keep in mind, you're going to have to come back after Shabbos to get that car. Keep that in mind. So you're going to need both parents to get that car back. All right? So you have to have two cars that could fit everyone. All the kiddies for this. Anyways, this is why Shave al Tasel. Sometimes it's better to stay local with the kiddies unless you have the right paraphernalia. Anyways, questions, comments on this one?
So there was the eighth.
No, I think so, no.
Maybe you could,
David, welcome back.
was the eighth that you could get Hana from the kid?
Oh, did you?
Where you go?
You could get Hana from the kid. Yes, correct.
You have to post.
Were you?
Yeah.
Correct. Which is not,
Was it?
seems like the other route's better to have them lasting the whole
Was
time. Yeah, what's
Wait,
the,
was
what,
Rob
what's
at,
going
were
on?
you? Were you asking for me during the year or no? Were you trying
No,
to
we
take
weren't
my team?
asking.
Okay, so I was saying I went into the
Any
bathroom.
questions, comments in the material that we just covered? Okay. The last day or two, we were working together on Sif Vav and Zion. Just want to share some points that we might have passed over yesterday. Pesach. We were Pasach on the points.
Oh.
What are the points? Firstly, just wanted to share this footnote. If you don't have electricity that's coming in from the main room, sometimes you could use the electricity on Shabbos that's coming in from the room from the street. You could use that light, but he says lechatchila, preferably, you should make sure that there is light in the rooms that you need light in and the bathroom. You have to make sure any place where you need light on Shabbos, you have to make sure that there's light there. Point that out. He gives a very nice introduction to the simon. You know, I was always a fan of learning introductions after you already know the content that you're doing, especially if it's a lengthy. It's a very brief 2 sentence, fine. If it's a lengthy introduction, I want to learn the topic first, then come back to it after. What's the introduction to these 2 sifim that we already learned over the past few days? Then tomorrow we're going to start next sif. Very applicable. Very applicable. Coming up. Talking about someone, he's going out. He's not eating at his house on Shabbos night. In order to properly understand what's going on over here, we have to specify 5 different points to what we're learning about. There are 2 obligations regarding the mitzvah of lighting candles on Shabbos. There has to be light in all locations that a person's going to use on Shabbos. Mishum shalom bayis, like Chazal say. Peace in the house. Kedei shelo yakashel be'itzu be'evan, so that you won't trip, you won't fall. That's called the choivos habayis, fellas. It's an obligation on the house. The actual house, you have to make sure that there's lights so that you won't fall. That's choivos habayis. There's an additional obligation when it comes to lighting on Shabbos called choivos haguf. That means when everyone is above the age of 12, 13, males, females, there's an obligation for them to personally light on Shabbos, on the actual body of a person. Choivas habayis, choivas haguf. Choivas habayis, the obligation on the house, we would really fulfill our obligation if it's lit in the house. Even if there's light that wasn't lit specifically in order to honor Shabbos, we'd be good. We'd be good with the electricity nowadays that we have. We don't need to light that. We don't need to light choivas habayis nowadays because we have electricity. However, when it comes to choivas haguf, that it's an obligation on our body, we would not fulfill our obligation from electricity. We need to light something specifically in order to honor Shabbos, and specifically with an oil and a wick or a candle. That's it. The electricity would not work for the choivas haguf aspect. Choivas habayis, obligation on the house, we will be good with any electricity. Even if it's not our electricity. However, choivas haguf teaches us that it has to be on our body, that it needs to be lit because of us, for us, and with our money. Our money had to have paid. We need to pay for the way that it's going to be lit, the oil, the wicks, etc. We need to pay for it.
Why is that so important? Money part?
Because it's with your own body.
Understood.
It makes it evident.
If I light use somebody else's match.
Oh, that's the next point over here. The rabbi said, not everyone needs to pay for the whole thing. What this means, you have the mother of the house or someone else. She could light, everyone could be covered with her. If there are guests there, the guests are eating from her bread, that symbolically shows that they are like secondary to their host, so to say. And they're covered under her umbrella, so to say. Shows that it's one partnership. But someone still has to purchase. They have to own, so to say, what they're lighting with. Because it's a chayv on the body. on the body.
I can borrow somebody's tefillin, yet still fulfill the
Correct.
mitzvah of tefillin.
But by Daled Minim you can't. Lakachtem lachem, it has
That's a
to be.
special pasuk like that.
Okay, that's a pasuk. So there's something over here that's special about
Right,
about lighting. The question is, what exactly is it? What's the pasuk? It's a good question. I don't know the answer yet. Keep learning. We'll come across the answer. I have to see. I have to research it. I'm not gonna pretend like I know the answer if I don't. Now, let's say the guests are bringing their own food. Then they have to contribute to show that they are involved. They have to give a couple quarters, whatever it is. Let's say person is eating in one spot, but they're sleeping in another. The choivas haguf, an obligation on the body, doesn't require us to light in two places. You could light in one of those two places, you fulfill your obligation. And as long as you have electricity in other places, no darkness, or what he calls alto, that's enough. That fulfills your obligation of choivas habayis. In a typical scenario, usual, we always light where we eat. Usual case, especially nowadays that we have electricity. As we already learned in the Mishnah Berurah, we're going to learn about more. Choivas haguf, it's an obligation on the body that teaches us. We could fulfill our obligation through our wives. We can and we do fulfill our obligations. Now, question is, let's say we're in a different location than our wife. Technically, we're good. Isha kigufo, choivas haguf. We're covered with our wife. But choivas habayis teaches us it's an obligation on the house. We need to light in the second location when we're away from our spouse, when we're away from our wife. Because the place where we are has to be lit. And we're in a different place than our wife there. Especially different time zones would complicate matters. And therefore nowadays, when it's so cheap to purchase a little bit of oil and a little bit of wicks or a candle, we should certainly be stringent and make sure to light in the second location.
Interesting he uses that word. This is parsha for darkness.
Which word?
Alata? Is
Yeah, use it a couple times.
That's by
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, use it a couple times.
How is it not a bracha shein esricha? I feel like
It's not a bracha shein esricha because choivas habayis teaches us the location where you at has to be lit in honor of Shabbos.
We have lights.
That's correct. Choivas habayis, though, to some degree, still requires a person to light actual candles. And then that goes to our next question, which we're going to have to cover in the next upcoming sessions that we're going to have, which is why do we need to light oil, wicks, candles nowadays that we have electricity?
Good.
Seemingly, we would be totally covered with this electricity. What do they call it? The electricity when the thing is flush in the wall? Those lights? What do they call those lights?
Floodlights? No.
No, it's like the old lights used to be a light bulb.
Right.
Nowadays, we have the lights that it's flat.
The LED.
Yeah, they're LEDs, but what are they called?
I don't know what they're called.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember. I forgot the name, but I know there's an official name. They're like skylights, but that's not the name.
No, they're regular. Everyone has those lights now.
I know. They don't come out. They don't protrude like regular bulbs. I know what
Yeah,
you're
what are
saying.
those? Whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway,
whatever. Yeah.
anyways, nowadays we have this great electricity. Why do we need still lights? So we're gonna cover that. All right, so Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow we will continue with these very relevant and important halachas. As you could tell, I did a lot of research on this.
Yes, thank you very much.
And this was in honor of Oh, full screen. All right, everyone have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Everyone.